If I venture in the slipstream between the viaducts, my dream, where mobile steel rims crack and the dead sailback won't stop, would you find me? Would you kiss my eye? Lay me down in silence, easy to be born again, to be born again. I've just been reading Karl Marx and I think the Communist Manifesto, or I don't know what it was a book of Karl Marx, and it was a lot of different essays and works that he'd written. And I was reading through it and I thought, there's a lot of good stuff in here, yet there's something that isn't quite right about it. And so, if we make a fundamental error right at the beginning, it doesn't matter how well thought out and how truthful and perfect our scheme, our understanding of the world is. It doesn't matter a damn if there's some fundamental error at the bottom of it. And no word is pointing to that error because the person cannot see any part of that solution, because probably the person is too young, too young to have seen it. There's a law in the universe that says that until your father dies, you have no place speaking before the people, and that means also writing and so on. And so all these people writing stuff and putting stuff on the internet and speaking what they think is the truth is actually not allowed by the law of nature. They're going against the law of nature. And to put their videos out, they have to edit all the ers and the ums and the ahs and all that sort of stuff that's in the videos, because nature perverts their voice. They're not able to talk like I am. So there's nothing edited. All my videos, it's all one. The guitar, the singing, the what I sang, the fact that I didn't sing the second verse because it didn't come to me, the fact that I'm saying everything I'm saying now, what I'm saying is all coming from the muse. The muse is the great oneness of nature. And it's only when one is part of that great oneness of nature that one can speak and represent that great oneness. It's only people who can speak and represent that great oneness who can really have anything worthwhile to say about anything, really. Otherwise it's just a perversion of the actual reality out there, and everybody's got their own personal version of that perversion. Now, Heraclitus said that in his fragments. It's not new stuff, it's old hat. But that's all he said. There's much more than can be said now, because we're 2,500 years since Heraclitus, and there's been the possibility to study great masters like Heraclitus, like Lao Tzu, the authors of the I Ching, and many others who brought wisdom to the masses. Now, Karl Marx was a young man, and he had some good ideas. He had analysed the situation in a good way, yet his solutions of a revolution have proven themselves to not produce the utopia that he thought it would. Okay, and so we still see the communist countries of the world. We still see them in the same industrial chains that the masses everywhere are held in. And one of the fundamental things missing from Karl Marx is true religion. And true religion is brought to humanity directly from God by God's agents. In fact, it is said in the ancient religions that God manifests himself directly to bring these teachings through to humanity. And I'm not going to argue against that. I don't know the agency from which my words come from. There's no name on it. We use the term God. There would not be a God except there was a human model for God. And God is simply the perfected human. And every single one of you walking the world can all be gods. Gods and goddesses. If you perfect yourselves, and the way one perfects oneself is one obeys Moses. Okay. Now, Moses, what God's representatives on earth bring is God's law, the laws of nature. The laws of nature. Not some religious organization. Religion is not an organization. Religion is what God brings to allow the people to move forward and to evolve. God's word is the evolutionary device used to allow mankind to move forward, to move through these periods of disintegration and devolution, and out of that for the new evolution of man to come. And we've seen what happened in the communist countries, and the communist countries are, I wouldn't say worse, they're not more corrupted than the Western countries, yet they are corrupted also by industrialization. And they've had to be this because until industrialism is destroyed, it is going to fight. It's going to fight against all weaker powers. And so there is a necessity for industrialization to be able to destroy itself. And so we see the three poles on the planet. We've got the Russians, the Americans, and the Chinese. And these, just like in World War II, that all the various powers then destroyed themselves on each other, we can see the process of attrition happening now. And what comes out of it is a new religion, really, a new religion. And that religion is truth. Truth is the full understanding of the human condition here on the planet, to understand our purpose and function in it. Now, the first thing we have to understand is there are two stages to human life. This has been completely lost from the world. The first stage is a stage of material life, where we're concerned with looking after our bodies, looking after the physical environment, and doing all the physical work that's necessary to do in the world. And when we've done everything that can be done in that, we've made our boat, we've made our farm, we've done everything. We've caught all the big fish in the ocean, all the different varieties, the big tuna and the big cabillaud. We've done all this. Then we're ready for the spiritual phase of our life. And the spiritual phase of our life is when we become an elder of the people. And the natural leaders of the people are the elders who have gone through the whole process. And so an elder has no interest in catching the big fish. He's done it all. He's no interest in making money. He's done that. Okay. And so what he's interested in is mastering himself. First of all, he mastered himself. Okay, so he found out what was wrong, what he was doing wrong, how he was not obeying nature, and he started to obey nature. Nature says, okay, now I've got a live one. Now I will share myself with you. And it's only at this point in a man's life, he might be 50 years old, where God says to man, here I am. Okay? Now, anybody who has anything to say about religion who hasn't had this experience, and the experience is widespread, you have anybody like me where they know what God is, and they'll say, I know what God is. It's not like, I believe. No, you can't believe anything. You know, you believe something, you've got these dark eyes, and now you're trying to tell the people to believe also. This is organized religion, of course. And so it's a very, very, very terrible thing. It's the most evil thing in the world, to put yourself forward for what you're not. Okay, now that leads me on to the other fundamental mistake. And that is, we have all these organizations now putting themselves forward for what they're not. Okay, now, think about the British car industry for a start, okay. It was started off by a couple of guys. There was a Morris fellow and there was an Austin fellow. And they each had their own motor car business. They were the head of it because they were the key factors of forming it. So they called themselves who they were, yeah? Morris Garages, okay, MG. And over the years, these names changed. We had the Austin Rover Group, we had BMC, we had British Leyland, we had many, many, many different names, fake names, not real. And all of these were false organizations to suppress and to exploit the working classes, the people working in them. And in the end, another fake organization, BMW, or BMW as it's called in Germany, took them over in a predatory act and destroyed the whole British car industry with its payments to the fake media to say bad things about the cars that these people were producing, eventually to steal all of the assets and sell everything off. And that was the end of the British worker, because the British worker was in a class revolt, if you like, against the powers that be, and it was decided it's better to get rid of them because the globalists can get their labour elsewhere. They can have cars made in China. It doesn't matter about the British worker. If everybody in Britain stopped working now, the country would just carry on just as wealthy as it is now, because its main product is capitalism, the banking system. Okay, ownership, foreign ownership of mines, the production. Britain could sit there around and do nothing, and, well, it needs all the people here to service the wealthy class. Okay, it needs all that. Otherwise, because the wealthy class can't do anything, they can't fix their cars, service the cars, can't do the gardens, can't fix their houses, can't do any of that stuff. Okay, because everything's become too big, too complex. It's just a waste, and they're the only people with any freedom, because the working classes, if you don't own anything, you can't go outside and dig a hole in the ground. You're not free to do anything. You can't touch anything out there. All you can do is sit in here and look at the internet. And that's why the internet has such a tremendous growth and people spend so much time on the internet. It's because they cannot do anything out there. You know, you're not allowed to touch anything. Yeah. If you see a sign that offends you, it's illegal to damage it. Yeah. There's all these bad laws. Advertising is allowed in this world. It shouldn't be allowed at all. You shouldn't be allowed to put advertising in people's minds, in their space, in their head spaces. That's their sacred space. Whatever you put into that, that's an offence against everybody. Yeah. So there are many laws that are being broken now by people who think they're not breaking the law. You know, and Moses came at that time and said, "Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal." All of these things are being broken now, okay? It's that they're just not called adultery, they're just not called stealing, they're called something else. They're called the business of organisations. I'm going to stop now and I'm going to make another video. I can join these two videos together. It's not a problem. From the far side of the ocean, as I put the wheels in motion, stand with my arms behind me, and I'm pushing up the door. Would you find me? Would you kiss my lay me down in silence, easy to be born again, to be born again. The far side of the ocean. Africa is over there, and Africa has been completely messed up by organisations. And the problem is the organisation. That's the problem, is you can't organise anything. And Krishnamurti was the master that came to give us that fundamental law that you cannot organise. Organisation is what's killing society, is killing the life in everything. And everything has stopped because of organisations. Now, take for example Facebook. Facebook, somebody said, I'm going to create a fake organisation called Facebook. And then after a while they said, oh, I'm going to split it up into this, that, the other, and call it Meta now. I'm going to call this, that, I'm going to buy all these other organisations and get rid of them because they're all competing against me. Shut them down, make their people unemployed. It's not me doing it, not me, it's Meta, it's Facebook. There is no person involved in this, it's faceless, yeah? No, it's not. This should have just been called Mark Zuckerberg. Finished. Mark Zuckerberg is the evil mastermind behind the whole idea of all this fake organisation. That's who it is. And if any of these organisations, fake organisations, commit crimes, it's not Mark Zuckerberg doing it, is it? It's wrong. It's wrong. The criminals need to be able to be identified. Okay? Each person in this world has the potential to belong to one of two classes. Okay? Those obeying the law of nature and the criminal classes. Okay, there's only two classes in this world, and all this class system of Karl Marx and all that is all nonsense, because there's only criminals and there's those abiding by the laws of nature. And the laws of nature are the laws as expounded by the representative of God, like Moses. Okay, these are the laws. Every era, every time in history has its own laws, and these laws become corrupted over time, and so the Christian churches, the organised religion, they corrupted the laws that were given to them by Moses by Jesus, by Krishnamurti, by everybody who came to give those laws. And so we have the problem of fake organisations. The government itself, the political parties, these all are fake organisations. There's nothing natural about them. Organisation starts natural. There is a natural organisation which starts by each man coming together with every other person. Okay, and the people who do the same work tend to be interested in the same thing. Do group endeavours. You know, if you're all like fixing motor cars, for example, you're going to build a garage to fix motor cars, and you're all going to work together in there, aren't you? You know, in your local area. And if you've got anything to say about motor cars, whether they should be EVs or internal combustion engines, then you'll get together with all the other guys in the country. You don't need a government to decide what it doesn't know. It's not an expert at. So all that governments are is they're experts at criminality, that's all. They don't do anything, they don't produce anything. And to be part of nature, you have to produce something. You have to create something. You can't just be an overhead on society. Now, many people say, oh, but look at you, you're an overhead on society. All you do is sit there and say words. Well, that's my job. In nature, there's a job. The people need to expound the words. There's a time to everything, a season for everything. And when a man gets to a certain position in nature, on the great chain of being, he then becomes a spokesperson for God. Okay, that's natural religion. And they used to call these people, in the olden days, before Christianity, they used to call these people druids. Now, to become a druid, it takes 20 years of continuous training to become a druid. Now, I started training as a druid. I didn't know I was training to be a druid because nature doesn't tell you that. You only find out in the end that you're a druid. 20 years it took me. I had to do many things, travel all over the world, learn many things, live without money, live perfectly, without any resources at all. To prove that nature is the one that looks after us, not us. We're looked after anyway. We can trust nature. And the masters of all arts used to have to go on these journeys. They used to be called journeymen. They used to have to go out into nature without money and meet God, you know, have faith that everything's okay, they're going to be looked after by the power of nature. They used to have to do this as part of their journeyman year, do their masterworks and become masters of a certain art. Now it doesn't just stop there, you know. You can become a master of all sorts of arts. You can be a master skateboarder, you can be a master computer programmer, you can be a master designer, you can be a master of all sorts of things. You can be a master movie maker, you can become a master photographer, you can become a master builder of computers, you can become a master of all sorts of arts, and each one of them requires journeys, you to go through a journeyman year. To get you to the next level on the great chain of being. And everybody needs to understand what this great chain of being is, to know that they're on it, to know their position, so that they can behave appropriately one with the other. And if you can't speak like this, you should listen, and you shouldn't actually open your mouth, because you know something. But it's a dog, you know, you only know a little bit. And it's not possible to think that you can lead humanity if you're 17 years old, Greta Thunberg, you know some of it. You know, I said you know what I'm talking about. Thank God for Greta Thunberg, yet she doesn't know anything, yeah? Not yet. She's going through a very good apprenticeship, then one day she will know a great deal more than what she does now. That's obvious, yeah. Next week I'm going to know more than I know this week. It never stops for all of us. Now the dog is the law. The law that we have in the Western demonic greed cult is a bad law, and the law that they have in China is also a bad law, and the law that they have in Russia is also a bad law. It's all bad law, okay? And there's different degrees of badness and different errors involved, but it's all wrong. Because everywhere man is in chains, and there's no recognition of God's representative on earth. There's no recognition. You can't have a world without true religion. And as more people go on the journey that I've been on, so perhaps there will become a recognition in the world for a true spiritual calling. And perhaps one day people like me will find their proper home in society. But all the fake organisations have to go first. All of them. The fake churches, they've all got to be gone, made illegal. Okay, a law passed against them. You cannot organise religion. Finished. Okay. All of the fake business entities that are just there to hide the criminality, all of those businesses, entities must be gone. It's easy. You pass a law, it's gone. Okay. Now you're standing every man on his own feet. We know that it's Mark Zuckerberg, not Meta or Facebook or whatever you call yourself there, or X. It's not X, it's Elon Musk. That's who it is, okay? If there's anything wrong with that organisation, the people working for Elon Musk, you go directly to Elon Musk, okay? And there should be no ownership of X, yeah? There's no need for there to be public ownership outside of the people working for X, yeah? There's no need for other people to own it. The people working for X, they own it. If anybody can be said to own it, okay? It's not necessary to own it, and it's not necessary to create more capital for it to do stuff that it can't naturally afford to do. If all those people gather together and do what they feel like doing, when they get to work in the morning, everything will be fine, okay? If they're allowed to do what they want to do, free of the control by fake organisations like government bodies and other organisations, banks. You don't need all of these things. You know, the world has invented the perfect money now. Most people don't fully understand the significance of this, that we now have Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is a perfect money. It has a value which cannot be corrupted. It's not able to be corrupted. And so, why hasn't it been widely adopted, this great invention? Why? Because all of the fake organisations know it's the end for them. Okay? It's the end of all the people making money for nothing and you chicks for free. That is the end for them, Bitcoin. Okay? Now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to purloin Bitcoin as part of their system. Okay? If we understand the law that there can be no organisation, then we know the direction that mankind has to move in. We know who the enemy is. The criminals, we know who the criminals are. Okay. That's all it takes. All it takes is for everybody to understand that. Fully understand it, realise what's going on. There can be no organisation, no advertising, no branding, no nothing, none of that stuff. Put the name on, you know? Morris Garages. Make it MG if you want to abbreviate it. But don't call it X. I think I said enough.